Welcome back to the Kicks and Picks podcast. Coach Steve and Nick here with you for an early recording. Usually we're doing these at night, doing it daytime today because the quick turnaround before the semifinals of both tournaments kick off tomorrow, Nick. So pretty solid quarters for us in terms of what we saw happening at the Euros.
Finally.
South America always a little difficult, but I think overall we're finally starting to get a read on these teams.
Yeah, it's been difficult. We had a good weekend, like you said. Man, like we got so spoiled of what 2 or 3 weeks
I know.
with nothing but games, and then you go 2 days without games, and the withdrawal starts to hit. But it's not a shock, maybe, to see the final four teams here in this Euro, like who they are. It's definitely a shock to see how they've performed and how they've
Yeah.
gotten here. So, surprises without really being surprised. We'll obviously get into it, but it really has been I've been kind of maintaining the first two group games maybe fooled everybody into thinking how good this Euros really is because we saw overs coming in every single game. Um, Not yet, Hedge. We saw, like
We'll
teams
get to
like
Copa soon.
Slovakia and Albania and Turkey and teams that, not household
Yeah.
teams. And everybody was wondering how this expanded format was going to work out. And like, oh shit, this might actually work out. And then like group game 3, first round of this, the second round, or what is it now? A round of 16. And then
Round of
into
16, yeah.
it just, I don't know. Everybody, you're hearing former players, you're hearing experts saying that we lost football. Like I kind of tend to agree, man. People, we're a little too worried about the results. Teams are a little too cautious. They're worried about not losing games. More importantly than that, I think these players are just fucking tired.
Yeah.
Long seasons. Some of them obviously in many games with their national teams in between. Some of them are in Champions League or some other European competition or South American competition, whatever it is. So we're seeing guys just not really show up the way we want them to. And I think fatigue has to have a lot to do with it. I'm not trying to make excuses for any players because I certainly had guys showing up a lot more than they have, but we got to chalk it up to something. It can't just be that players lost their talent, coaches lost their ability. Everybody kind of forgot how to play football. It's I don't know, just weird tournament to this point, and hopefully these last 3 games in both tournaments will make up for it.
Yeah, I think fatigue. I think you're right, especially with the Euros. When you look at the teams that advanced and you look at the teams that did better than we expected, a lot of those teams don't have a lot of guys playing on big European sides that go deep into Champions League and Europa League. And, everybody's playing a domestic league until May. So that kind of evens itself out. But when you have the Real Madrids of the world and the Man Cities, and those teams are mostly stacked with players from larger footballing nations like the Spains, the Germanys, the Englands, like England's still in it, obviously, and France is still in it, but a lot of those guys play a lot more games, which is maybe why the play style for those sides hasn't been as good, especially France. I mean, you look Georgia, right? Who plays in a big team? Kvaratskhelia, obviously with Napoli, but they didn't get very far in Europe this year, so maybe
Yeah, the
a little
forward too.
less
I
with.
forget where he plays. He's in Turkey
And the
somewhere, I think.
goalie, the goalie I think is on Valencia. So there's a
Yeah.
couple guys, but Slovenia, couple guys here and there. Romania, I don't think anybody really plays on a big European team right now. A lot of those guys are in Italy and Serie B and around,
Yeah.
right?
The one guy for Tottenham, right? The defender.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Dragusin, who was from Genoa, right? And then Slovakia, Turkey, Austria, right?
Um,
So they have like a handful of guys that are playing deep into European competitions, but not the same as in England or France or Spain. So maybe some of that does wear on it. Just the way the group stage shook out, like we said last time, the way the bracket shook out was not the way we expected. Where Spain, Germany, Portugal, France, and Belgium were all on the same side of the bracket in the round of 16. That was unexpected.
for sure.
It made for a couple exciting quarterfinal matchups on that side of the bracket. That Germany Spain game was a great match as a neutral. France Portugal, not as much so in terms of the goal scoring and things like that. Went to penalties at 0-0, but two big nations playing. To me, I mean, the Germany Spain game was exciting. The Netherlands Turkey match was very exciting as well. That was
Probably
a
the best two
great,
games of the
yeah,
tournament.
probably the best two as neutrals to watch and
Yep.
like see teams go at each other, score a couple of goals. The fact that Spain won that in what was it, like the 118th minute or so. The Dutch had to come back late in regular time, so those were very exciting matchups. So let's jump into the quarters, Nick, with the first match of the quarters on Tuesday afternoon here in the East Coast of the United States. It's Spain and France. Um, Two of the bigger football nations in Europe, two of the more successful ones over the past decade or so, especially France. But France has been very underwhelming. I think if I read correct, they've only scored one of their own goals, right? The rest was like an own goal and then advancing on penalty kicks and
Yep.
um, very, very disappointing. Have to me, they have to be in terms of not, they're in the semifinals, so obviously the results have been there, but in terms of how they've played, I think have to be the most disappointing side in the tournament.
Yeah, and this is where you have to decide what's important and what's relevant, because France and England have probably been the two most underwhelming sides in this entire tournament,
Yeah.
to the two biggest betting favorites going into the tournament. Well, here they are in the semifinals. So are we mad about it, or are we happy about it? I'm pissed off about it from every game I fucking bet on them. And I had a future on France's goals. I had a future on Mbappe to get 4 goals. He's not going to come anywhere close unless he goes superhuman. So that's disappointing, but that's not going to matter because they've made it this far. They're up against Spain. Tough test, but they're always going to face a tough test. And I'm torn. I'm torn between the France that I've watched for 5 or 6 games and the France that I know and the France that the bookies are offering me right now.
Yeah.
And it's really tough to distinguish between the two because everything on the planet says Spain is winning this game. They've looked good. They're scoring goals. They've been tested and beaten good teams. Um, Great numbers on Spain, and I'll get into what my pick is. But when the hell are you ever going to see France at plus 205 on the money line again? When are you going to be able to take a France draw no bet, or France maybe even plus a quarter of a goal, close to even money? You're not going to see it, but maybe you have another thought. I mean, what in your mind tells you that France deserves to be bet on? Because I don't have it. I want to have it, but I don't have it.
Yeah, I mean, there's great value on both sides. When you look at the money line, Spain plus 175, France plus 205, draw no bet minus 125 for Spain, even money for France. Even the two advanced line, if you think they can get it to PKs again and get by Spain that way, France is minus 105, Spain is minus 120. I mean, the value's there on both sides, but I think you're right. France being the underdog, I think, is justified here. And the value is value you never see on France, not in this, current, I guess, 3 or 4 runs of tournaments
Yep.
since they won the World Cup back in 18. But I don't see, based on the way they've played, them beating Spain in this match unless they can drag it to PKs right now, because Spain has been very impressive. Spain a little unlucky not to beat Germany in regular time, right? They
Yep.
had them down to the last couple minutes there. And I actually, to me, that match felt like a draw. I actually sent to you guys in the text, like, I'm going to take a shot on the 1-1 exact score line here, which is something I almost never do. I just had that feeling. FanDuel had a little boost. So I was like, I'm going to throw that on, take a shot, and it hit. Thanks to a late Germany goal. But it felt like Spain's match to lose there if they
Yep.
had lost that match. And then they got the winner late. I think it's hard to bet money line here just because of how
Yep.
many of these matches have been going to extra time.
Agree.
So to me, the value here is on the two advanced lines, minus
Yep.
120 and minus 105, or like that's where you got to look because someone's got to win. It's just who's
Yep.
going to get through, right?
So anybody that's been like placing draws has done really, really well. So that was a hell of a bet. I think
Yeah,
the
which
draw
is
line
something
here
we
is
almost never give out
it's
draws in
tough.
our locks,
It's
right? It's
tough.
hard.
So listen, it's a plus 180. That's not a great number. So what I've kind of been doing over the past few rounds is two teams that are kind of evenly matched like this. I'm going to wait till the very last minute. I'm going to see where the line settles, and I'm going to take the underdog plus a quarter of a goal, double chance if it's available. I don't know that France will get to double chance territory in this one. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Highly unlikely.
Yeah.
But the last round, for instance, I took Germany double chance and I parlayed it with France double chance, and it came out to like plus 120 or something like that. But hey, both games were draws.
Yep.
Did I lose out on some money? Yeah. But did I give myself a whole hell of a lot of protection and buy a lot of results and walk away with a winner? Yeah. So I don't think that's a bad strategy for matchups like this if you want to pick something and get a little creative with two of these games. I have 4 bets that I've looked at here, and I'm not, this isn't nothing to me at this stage is in locked territory, right? These are good
Yeah.
teams, evenly matched, maybe some underperforming. Um, but I think you got to go Spain. Spain to qualify at minus 120. They
Yeah.
deserve it at this point in time. France doesn't. I think Danny Olmo has been lights out. He's come off the bench more often than
Yeah.
not, which is
Did it
crazy to
off the
me. But
bench last match.
I have to imagine he starts in this game. Um, I don't know. So obviously wait for lineups. But if he is starting, one shot on target is minus 115. I think that's
Solid.
crazy. And then you have to wonder, do you think Mbappe finally wakes up? If you think he does, if he's healthy, two shots on target is almost at plus 200. It's plus 190. That's kind of nuts. I mean, at some point he has to have a good game. I tweeted this out kind of jokingly, but like you can't call a guy like this world class, and he's obviously world class. He has the pedigree, he has the
Yeah.
trophies. I'm not really knocking him, but when was the last time you injury aside, I granted he has a broken nose, but when did you have a world class player in his prime put up a 5 game tournament stinker like he has? It's
Yeah,
like never happened.
it's rare. Like, Messi would get the criticism for never lifting the trophy until they won
Yeah.
the Euros and the World Cup, but not the Euros, rather the Copa and the World Cup. But like he would still perform. I feel like for the most part, this is this is in terms of performance not
Yeah.
very good from him.
So I'm wondering at some point, two shots at plus 190. Does he turn it around? This could be a spot. I, I don't love it. Just the numbers way too good to not seriously consider. Um, and then both teams to score, right? You mentioned it. Does France eventually get on the score sheet? Plus 105 for both teams to score. I certainly think Spain score a goal. So that's up for consideration. So those were the four I kind of identified for this game.
Yeah, I think those are solid. Spain to advance was the first one that jumped out at me last night as we were looking through stuff. I do like that almost shot because he's likely to start with Pedri getting injured early last match. That's the reason he was on the field, right? To score the first goal and then he assisted the winner. Couple suspensions in addition to Pedri being out for Spain to keep an eye on. Carvajal, who's been playing right back, took that late red card to kind of just ensure that Germany didn't get that late counterattack to try to get a tying goal. And then Robin Lamorne, Normand, the center back, is also suspended for yellow card. So
Mm-hmm.
Nacho, steps in there. So there are a couple changes to the Spain lineup, but I think for the most part, I think they'll be all right. Jesus Navas likely to fill in at right back and Nacho at center back. Nacho getting up there a little bit, 34 years old now, but a guy with massive experience with both Spain and Real Madrid. So I don't worry about him like having too much of
Mm-hmm.
a clunker.
For sure.
Maybe not to the same level as Lenormand at this point, butchering his name over and over here. But I think in terms of experience, he's fine. Navas, same thing, the experienced player, and Olmo, like you said, is on fire right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think for Spain, the guy that needs to step up a little bit is Alvaro Morata.
Yeah.
No goals yet. This is an experienced striker. Not our favorite striker. We talk about him all the time. We
No.
joke about him all the time when he's playing domestically. He's got just the one goal so far.
And that's been every striker, man. I'd hate to single him out. I mean,
Yeah,
it's interesting that they've made it this far without any goals. But I think what Jose Lu has one goal
yeah, and he
to this
scored the
point.
first match against Croatia in the 3-0 dropping Morata.
Yeah. So I mean, he's not done any worse really than anybody else to this point. But you definitely would love to see something out of him.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that speaks to how much talent is all around the pitch for Spain and how like diverse their attack is. And sometimes
Yep.
those are the teams that do best. I think back to, we're Italy fans, so it's always easy to remember the Italian teams for us. And the '06 team, Luca Toni came in as one of the top strikers in Europe, it felt like. And then again in the Euros after that. And he led the team with 2 goals in that '06 run to the World
Yeah.
Cup title. Gilardino, who was also an informed striker at the time, had 1 goal. It was I think did Pirlo also have 2 or Zambrotta? Like one of them had 2 goals and that was it. Like everybody else had 1 goal. Just spread the love, and that's it. And sometimes that works for teams, and it seems like it's working for Spain right now because they have so much talent around the pitch.
For sure. And I feel
And
like Germany was set up pretty similarly. But
yeah,
those are the two teams that look the best all
yeah,
tournament.
yeah, and it just feels like with modern football, you don't get those number 9s that just banging goals as often
Yep.
anymore. There's no
Yep.
like Miroslav Klose in this tournament who used to just bag goals for Germany or prime Ronaldo for Brazil before the injuries set in. Like those
And look
guys,
at look at how few teams today play with the two striker setup.
yeah, very few, very rare, very rare.
So agree.
Yeah. So and no real. I mean, these teams have obviously played a bit in some recent tournaments. The Nations League final in 21 that France beat Spain 2-1. But other than that, not actually a lot of recent history, which is surprising to me because they've both been so good. But they haven't met at the Euros since 2012 when Spain beat France 2-0.
Oh
And
wow.
that, yeah. So um, very surprising. That was a Chabi Alonso double, a goal and then a penalty late. I'm looking here. So not a lot of head-to-head streaks to go on between these two teams, um,
Yeah,
which
I
is
was trying to
interesting.
look at like corners and things like that, and just I think like they're under corners when these two teams play,
Yeah,
under cards when these two teams
yeah,
play, and you can't even bet those lines because
yeah,
they're just way too juiced up.
yeah. It's that, and those streaks go back so far, like goes back like a decade. So
Yeah.
how much of it's still
Right.
relevant, right?
Right.
But I
Hmm.
think we agree here before we move to England and the Netherlands. I think Spain is the pick right now. Um, like I said, I don't think those forced lineup changes affect them that much. I think they're a pretty well oiled machine, and they've looked like the best team in the tournament so far. France has talent, but they're another team where the goal's coming from at this point. Unless Mbappe decides to show up big, like you said, where the
Yeah, and
goal's
then
coming
kind
from.
of the weird thing for me too, just to before we touch on it, they play this 4-3-3. They won't seem to get away from it.
Hmm.
I'm not going to go into a monologue on the 4-3-3, but you got Thuram in the middle. He's not really a striker,
No,
not like in that sense.
he plays off Lautaro for Inter.
Yeah, and Giroud really hasn't gotten a shout. I mean, granted,
Yeah,
he's much older, right? He's 35, 36. Probably another guy that definitely suffered from the long season and fatigue. But at what point do you stick him in there and give it a shot?
yeah,
At least for the first half of a game, first 60 minutes.
yeah. To put a more traditional striker, yeah, I agree. There's no more Kareem Benzema, but maybe you give Giroud a look, change it up. But it seems like when you get this deep into a tournament, I think managers get a little hesitant to make such a big change.
For sure.
Yeah,
The other dude, just sorry, well, I'm just looking at it. Griezmann, if he starts, man, it's Griezmann to get a shot plus
yes,
110. I think that's a silly number.
yeah. He tends to get a shot in there, and I mean, I think he kind of has to start, right? I mean, he's been
I,
starting pretty
I
much
don't know.
every match for them.
I'm trying to, I feel like Deschamps has really gotten away with criticism because of how far they've made it, but I don't really understand a lot of what he's done to this
Yeah,
point.
saw a meme on Twitter. It was the Champ's body and kind of like his face like morphed in with Max Allegri's face because
There you
he's
go.
just been kind of getting the results done in such an ugly fashion.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. So let's move on to the other semifinal. The Dutch and England, two traditional powers in Europe as well, and big nations. They got there past Turkey and past Switzerland, who gave them both fits for a while in those two matches. Um, England's still not the the prettiest win again, right? They had to go to penalty kicks against the Swiss. Um, it wasn't their best match. Saka kind of bailed them out with an 80th minute goal 5 minutes after Mbolo put the Swiss up. It felt like once the Swiss scored that maybe they'd just be able to hold out. That's what it felt like to me. Um, and then the English found a way. And in the end, they did create more in extra time. Not a whole lot, but they got 3 shots in the second period of extra time. Um, I don't know. Like, what do you make? Like, we talked about Southgate. He's not one to change much, and they finally scored a goal when he threw on more attacking players, but it was
No.
forced because they were down with 15 minutes left in the match.
Steve, who are you rooting for? I can't tell.
I am at this point rooting for the Dutch, who tend to be my second European team I root for. I love. I've always had a thing for the orange jerseys. I've got my Kevin Strootman from when he was playing with Roma over here. I invested one back in the day, and then he shortly thereafter got hurt. So I mean, I'm probably real good luck for people, but
Yeah, listen, we kind of mentioned it here. I think England, you can argue with how they've played, but you can't argue where they are at the tournament in this point in time.
yeah.
Um, Southgate, you're right. And, people are asking questions and rightfully so. And listen, that's not me saying I think you take Harry Kane out. but at some point you do have other very capable attackers, right? Double-digit goal scorers in the Premier League, in Tony and Watkins. Maybe there's a different look that you throw at the Dutch here, and I mean, do you want to play the Dutch's game? That's a whole nother question.
There was a
But
stat though, Nick, and I think it speaks to why Kane is more valuable than just the goal. I know he's a striker, so that
yep,
is the output you're looking for is the goals. But it was I'm going to see if I can hear from Opta Joe. 503. Harry Kane has applied the most pressures to opponents overall. 503 pressures, the most pressures in the opponent half at 326, middle third, and final third. So
right.
I mean, the guy's working his ass off.
No,
So
there's no question. And
I think
again,
it kind of goes to like we were texting about Darwin Nunez the other night, right, with our buddy who's Uruguayan, and like it's the same kind of feel. Like he just pressures and
never
pressures, and
stops running.
yeah,
So no, like I said, I'm not saying that you move away from him, but at what point do you try two of these guys
yeah,
together, especially when some of the players behind them haven't really shown up? And listen, Saka obviously had a phenomenal game last game. He'd been maybe England's worst player up
yeah,
until that game. So um, the leash needs to be a lot shorter on some of these guys. And listen, they have talent. They have a lot of versatility in how I think they could play. Is Southgate going to ultimately hold them back? And let's give the Dutch some credit, man. They've looked good. They're scoring a lot of goals. They're generating a lot of chances, maybe even more so than the goals that they've ultimately gotten.
yeah,
And they're another team that's doing it with a piss poor striker in Memphis. Memphis stinks. I'm not going to go on another rant because we talk about it just about every episode. This guy hasn't done anything good the entire tournament. They're getting so much out of Gakpo, who has looked
yeah.
fantastic now for another tournament. Seems to do
Man,
that a lot.
I thought he had the goal that was going to cash me an anytime scorer last match, and
Yeah,
then it was the own goal, the dreaded own goal came back again.
right. So that was hurt. That hurt for you. But yeah, the question comes to this team: at what point do you try something out? Right? You have Xerxes, who hasn't really featured. You have Weghorst, who more of that traditional number 9, but I think that's another guy that shows out. You got Bergwijn, who he's played, but he's not really playing in his preferred position. So, um, it's the question that has to come up, right? They've made the semifinals, both of these teams. Do you stick with what got you here, or do
Yeah,
you tap into the talent, tap into the versatility that you have, and really try to make a statement? It's a tough call, right? It's very easy to Monday morning quarterback or try to predict what's going to happen. Can't argue with the results to this point, and that's kind of where I'm stuck.
yeah, and looking at the comments, Hedge looking like he's got a lot of money sitting on this Dutch side with the 16-1 to win the tournament, and then Gakpo for Golden Boot 45-1. Great play there. If that ends up panning out, he's had a very good tournament.
Yep.
At least he's looking at a 0-0 half in the first half. He feels like with the way these sides have played, and he feels like Virgil van Dijk can take care of Harry Kane. The Dutch fullbacks can take care of Saka. With Ake and Dumfries on the two either side if he inverts or whatever. So yeah, I think you're right about Depay. Like he's the one that is of the whole side. Like he's the one that you feel like is holding them back a little bit because they have been pretty good as a team. But like if they had a striker banging in goals, I think they're probably up there as one of the better performing sides if they had been able to do that. And you got to remember, they got out of their group as a third place side, which is kind of
Right.
crazy. They're trying to follow that Portugal route from when they won. What was that? Like 16, I think, the first time they expanded the tournament in
Yep.
2016. So they're trying to follow that route, and like our friend of the pod, Nima Tavali, called him. I saw on Twitter early on the wannabe NBA player with his, he's got the cornrows and
Yeah.
the headband going on. He looks more like an NBA player than a footballer right now. And
Hey, he's got
um,
his rap album. He's
yeah,
doing it all.
I don't know. I mean, it's crazy to me too that Gakpo plays on the wing, right? Like he doesn't look like your typical winger. Like to me, he feels more like a striker. Like maybe play him at striker, right? And like let
Yeah.
him get in the
And
box
but
more.
see that, like, does
But
that put
does it
pressure
take
on him,
away? Yeah, yeah.
right? And take away what he's done so well at this point in
And I
time.
guess
I
he
don't know.
does it for Liverpool too, because Darwin's the number 9 there,
Yeah.
right? So even though he is more, he can play striker. He
Yeah.
does play on that left wing a lot. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, he's
Uh,
been phenomenal.
All right, I haven't given out like the statement yet that I give out every show, but if you made it this far and you're listening, shop around, shop your lines. Lines are wildly different for tournaments like this from book to book. What I'm giving out is on DraftKings. I'm not using DraftKings. It's just what's in front of me. It's the easiest to research. But I think these lines can vary. So let me hit you with some bets, and I want your thoughts, Coach. Both teams to score even money.
Both teams to score even money. I think it's solid because I don't know if the Dutch defense is good enough to keep them out for the whole match.
I
They
mean,
just don't
even as bad
feel.
as England's been, right? We
Yeah, like it
everybody's
feels
scoring on the
like.
Dutch.
Yeah, yeah. The
Um,
the Turks gave them problems at times.
to
Yeah,
take a shot here, the draw is plus 180. Draw an over 1.5 goals. So that's effectively both teams scoring. You're looking at a
yeah.
1-1, a
1-1.
2-2, plus 300. I think that's a spot to maybe take a shot. If
Yeah,
you got a little beer money, you got a boost, you got something.
yeah.
Um,
Not something
because
I'm putting like a full unit on,
yeah,
probably,
but
but
all these games have gone to extra time, man. So I'm thinking that represents some solid value.
and just to throw it out there while you're on the draw, if you're looking at like a correct score, you want to play like a couple half unit plays on correct scores. 0-0 plus 600, 1-1 plus 425, and 2-2 is plus 1100.
Yeah,
I don't know if we
there you
get
go.
that many goals though, but then again, that Turkey Holland game felt like you could have had 4 or 5 goals in it.
Easy. Corners, I think both teams have probably trended a little bit towards the under, but man, the over is only at 8.5. So I think to get 9 corners minus 125, not a terrible look. And then cards over 3.5 cards. It's minus 150 currently on DraftKings. So if you can get that lower, I think there could be 4 cards in this one. I think this referee has averaged like 4.5 cards so far in the tournament.
And these teams, in their last 10, less than 4.5 cards. So it's not the 3.5 that this is set at. So it kind of puts you in a funky spot. You probably have to do a little more digging to find how many cards these teams really get per match. The Dutch are
Definitely.
under 4.5 in 9 out of 10. English matches are under 4.5 in 8 out of 10.
Yeah. So
It's one of the things too that's tough with or makes it intriguing with these like a lot of draws going to extra time. A lot of these prop type bets carry into extra time, right? It's just really the money line that doesn't. Am I correct?
I'm sorry, Coach. Could you repeat that?
The card props will carry into extra time, right? If this
I
match
don't
goes to
believe
extra.
so. I'm
No,
almost positive every single bet that you guys make, and definitely check with your book. A lot of them will, as you're placing it, there might be
it'll say
a
90-minute
disclaimer.
line, right?
Almost every bet's a 90-minute bet. I think
Mm,
the only ones that aren't are like to advance or method of victory. If team A in PKs or team B in extra time.
yeah.
I'm almost positive everything else is a 90-minute bet.
Okay, yeah. So shots on target, I'm seeing like I'm looking at stock shots on target. All bets are settled based on 90 minutes plus stoppage time for shot on target. Um, goals, anytime goal scorer, goals in regular time will count. So those are the corners. It's not. It doesn't say. It just says only corners taken will count towards settlement. So I'm not sure about corners,
Yeah,
at
there you
least
go.
on
And every book is
DraftKings.
different too,
Yeah,
which they shouldn't be. But
yeah.
and then here's the other one. So over 2 goals on the Asian lines minus 115. I don't know.
Yeah, two
Just
goals.
seems
Yeah,
like an overmatch to me. And
yeah.
if it lands on 2, all
You
right,
push.
no harm,
Yeah,
no foul.
yeah. I'd almost rather take the two and possibly push, right, than take
Then
the two
both
and a
teams to
half that
score.
it's set at, or the
Yeah.
both teams to score because you might get a 1-0 lead for somebody, and then the other team has to push late, and it turns into a counterattack goal the other way, right? And you get
Yep,
2-0 or something. So
for
that's
sure.
always a possibility. So two feels like a solid number though with the way the Dutch matches have played
Yeah, it's
out.
probably my favorite one of
Even
all
most of the
these.
England matches have seen goals.
Hmm.
They've come late, but they've come. Um, so yeah, the last two have both gone to extra time at 1-1. Uh, one place to keep an eye. Declan Rice has been really good. He's been the man of the match the last two English matches in the knockout stage here. What's going to go on in the midfield? Um, that could be a place where we see this match won or lost. It'll be
For sure.
interesting. I think this will be a fun one, though. I think both these matches will be fun matches as neutrals to watch.
Hope
Um,
so.
I know Hedge will be sweating it out if it gets into extra time with the Dutch there. Um, but hey, if you get a Gakpo goal, you might be good for that golden boot ticket at 45
Hey
to 1.
man,
So
I
yeah,
guess not a terrible time to hedge a little bit with England, right? You got a
yeah.
nice plus money number, but man, hell of a call. I mean, shout
Yeah.
out to you.
And Lisi throwing one out here at us. Both teams to score, and England uh, to qualify is plus 260. Both teams to score, and Netherlands to qualify plus 340. So if you think both teams are going to score, you could get more value there. You could bet them both and still be up money, really,
There you go.
if you think both teams are scoring. So little nice little nugget there.
Yeah, I apologize, man. My stream is frozen as it tends to do on StreamYard, so I can't see any of these comments. So, Coach, you'll have to shout them all out.
The whole thing is frozen there on you, huh?
Yeah.
All right. So that should wrap Euro. We'll be back obviously with a finals preview later this week before we head into those Sunday finals. But we're expecting some good semis. Other side of the world, I should say, here in the States is the Copa America semifinals. It kicks off with Argentina and Canada from MetLife Stadium on Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Hedge is here. We're going to put his Canadian flags back up here on the screen because he is here repping. He came on our Copa America preview episode and said he was taking a shot on his country more because it's his country than his belief in them. But they have gotten now to the semifinals. Impressive stuff from Jesse Marsh's side. Again, I will say it like I say every episode we talk about Canada. I wanted him to be the U.S. men's national team coach.
Yes.
He is not. He's leading Canada to the semifinals. We think the U.S. is going to fire Greg Berhalter, but we don't know.
How has he not been fired already?
Still, we don't know. I mean, I saw a tweet like Ecuador fired their coach after losing to Argentina in penalties like immediately. And here's the U.S. still hanging on to Jesse Marsh after not getting out of the group stage. First host not to get out of the group stage in Copa America history. But here we are. Anyway, we won't digress too much. So this one on paper, I know they met in the group stage. As much as I want to see a good match here out of the Canadians, I just feel like they're going to be overmatched. But I don't know. What do you think? Do you think there's a I mean, going direct to penalties does give, I think, a little more hope. But is there a route for Canada here? Do you feel?
Um, man, first and foremost, shout out Hedge. Congratulations. Congratulations on also winning all these bets.
Yeah. It's it was a 2-0 Argentina win the first time they met
Yeah.
in the group stage, the
And
opening
it
match.
felt like it could be a lot more, right?
It was
That
the
that score
XG was
line
over
was
3,
yeah,
9 big chances for Argentina,
yeah.
19 total shots.
And
Canada's goalie had 10 saves.
I was going to say that Canada's goalie has been fantastic.
Yeah.
Crepeau or something like that. I
Yeah.
don't know exactly how to pronounce it. He's been outstanding. I think Argentina missed some chances in that game
Yes.
more than he saved them. But Argentina has been pretty underwhelming since. They've been only okay. Messi, is he hurt? Is he okay? We don't know. It's tough, man, because you look at this Canada side and I say this every show. You keep hearing about Jonathan David. Well, I'm waiting to see it. What does this guy do? Because every time I watch him, he's missing chances. He's not really doing a whole lot otherwise. And I think he's taking a back seat to some of these other players. So gonna need something really big out of him. Gonna need something really big out of Eustachio. He's suspended, right? Or did
Let
he?
me
I'm
double
trying to
check.
remember. No, I don't remember. He didn't get a card. He just missed his penalty. I know he did something really bad last game. I'm trying to remember what it was. I think he just missed a penalty.
No suspensions for either team listed here.
Okay, so that's a guy that he's been like solid, but like not noticeable, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. So you need a little bit more out of him. Um, you know, the other dude, man, the
Schaffelberg's like stepped up for them pretty
yeah,
nicely this tournament,
who's the
right?
guy for Bayern with the similar name that
Oh,
I
you're talking, yeah, Davies.
Davies, like that, gonna need a little more out of him. You mentioned Schaffelberg, right? And I know
Yeah.
like Canadian Twitter's going nuts and Canadian media's going nuts and awesome. Absolutely. Like great story. But they're gonna need to play the perfect game
Yeah.
because this is where Argentina they're gonna be able to shrug off a couple of bad games and still put in the performance that they need to. They've been here before. Canada doesn't have that luxury. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be really, really tough. I'm rooting for it to be a good competitive game. It may very well be a good competitive game, but it's going to need to be picture perfect for Canada to progress.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult for them to progress. I don't think this is like the Colombia Panama 5-0 drubbing kind of match,
No,
but this does feel like the match where Argentina finally gets over that 2-goal mark. It could be. if
Very
they
possible.
execute their chances. They've they've underwhelmed in attack. Like their defense has been great. They get that one late goal to Ecuador, which screwed us. I think we had them to get a clean sheet that match, right? As
Yep.
our pick. And Hedge agrees. He goes, it's gonna have to be perfect, right? Like might need a red card to actually pull it off, but just happen to be here. And I think any Canadian would be lying to you if they didn't say that, this is feels like a victory for them too to get to
Anyone
the
in the U.S.
semifinals.
or Mexico would trade places for you,
Yeah,
trade
yeah.
places with you in a heartbeat.
So given
Absolutely.
Canada's football history, like I think any of them would be thrilled to be here. And I think Hedge is right. I think like anything you do here is like even if you play Argentina tight, I think is like icing on the cake at this point.
Yeah,
But
but here, like, here's the flip side. I'm not trying to. I'm trying to buy into the Hedge hype here. Um, Argentina, like I said, man, like
they've
they've
underwhelmed
had
offensively.
they've underwhelmed, but like you look at the lineup, like I don't know, like does it look that good? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely solid all around. I mean
No, no,
I
it's
think does Lautaro start or does Alvarez start? I think is the question mark in this lineup. In terms of like if you're looking at like an anytime scorer type prop, I think that's one you gotta wait till you
yeah.
get closer to kickoff, or if you're looking at a shots on target prop, because I think this is one where I think Argentina's gonna get a lot of shots again. So I think shot on target props could be big here, Messi included, because he missed some big chances in that first
Yeah,
matchup.
that's what I'm saying. Messi. I mean, you want to talk about fatigue, you want to talk about age. Messi, it's hitting him right now.
Yeah,
Like Di Maria was starting games the first couple of
yeah,
games, like 35, 36 years old. Um, Obviously, you have Alvarez, you have Martinez, sure. But like Nico Gonzalez was starting games and he looks fucking terrible. Dude sits the bench if you're Argentina. And that's who
yeah,
you're trotting out
yeah,
there as Argentina. Meanwhile, you got Garnacho who hasn't featured. And I feel like he was pretty solid this year. Like you got guys like Lo Celso on on this team. You got Paredes, you got Rodrigo De Paul. Like the game has passed a lot of these guys by. Let's just be fucking honest. And they have enough quality that in a competition like this, where there are some weaker teams, they're still able to show out and make a little bit of an impact. But
yeah,
I don't know, man. Like it's just not. Argentina's just not as impressive as I remember,
yeah.
in terms of like from a name standpoint. But
Defending World Cup winner, right?
you
You'd
kind of
expect a little bit
see,
more.
you know, you see this tournament, and that doesn't really matter. It's about grit, it's about hard work, and it's about getting results. And obviously, they're capable to do that against any team.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of been the Copa America, right? The number of fouls you see in these matches is crazy. Hedge is saying Canada also missed plenty of good chances the first match, and he thinks both teams to score might be doable. Bet wise, that's plus 145.
Okay,
If you think they
I
can both
like it.
score, I was leaning toward Argentina clean sheet when we were texting last night,
Yeah, I mean,
but
if you, I was, I kind of go the same way. Well, Canada to score was something like, why can't I find it? It's like
Canada
plus
scores plus
120.
115.
Yeah,
Yeah,
plus 115. So if you're going to take that, why wouldn't you take both teams to score? So
yeah,
good
you're
shout out.
not shutting Argentina out, I don't think. Couple the spread bets. If you think Argentina is going to get a few goals, minus a goal and a half is plus 105, minus a goal and a quarter is minus 125. Might be the way to go if you think Argentina wins this one by 2 goals.
Yeah, and I was looking
Um,
at it the other way. If you can get Canada plus 1.5 at like minus 130, that's not terrible. If it somehow some way settles on like Canada plus 1.75 or Canada plus two, I'd probably take it.
yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going to go that far though. Right now, the AC
No,
handicap is minus 145 and a goal and a half. So
nah, tough. But no, you mentioned it. I think Lautaro or Alvarez, depending on who's starting. Alvarez is like plus 160. I think that's pretty solid. Lautaro's at plus 115.
yeah,
Kyle Larin, for me, who's been really, really good, for him to get a shot on target is even money. That's maybe my favorite bet.
yeah,
And then I
that's a pretty
think
solid
over
one.
4.5 cards at minus 130 has to be like automatic. I feel like there's been 12 cards in every single Canada game so far.
Yeah, and then I'm looking at two or more shots on target, depending on who starts up top for Argentina. Right now, Messi's minus 125, Lautaro plus 140, and Julian Alvarez plus 275 for two or more shots on target. So that those are interesting to me too, because yeah, I feel like Argentina will have plenty of the ball and plenty of shots.
For sure.
So could be things to keep an eye on. So all right, good luck to Hedge and his Canadian you know brethren there, but I think it's going to be a tough one for sure. So the more intriguing matchup, at least on paper, in this one, Nick, is going to be Colombia and Uruguay on Wednesday night. Um, Uruguay gutted it out against Brazil, had a great penalty kick shootout after a 0-0 draw. That was a match we tabbed both teams to score, and we thought, there'd be some goals in that one. Um,
So here's where we went wrong. Um, Uruguay apparently has not given up a goal yet.
yeah, they muck it up, man.
So
They
that was like news to me, where I was just in my mind, and I said it on the show. I expected them to score because they've been scoring,
yeah.
but I definitely didn't think Brazil would get shut out in the
No,
elimination game.
Uruguay did give up a goal the first match in the 90 plus 4 minute against
Oh, that's right.
Panama.
We lost that bet.
We lost
That's
that
right.
bet on
Yeah,
the
yeah. Okay.
94th minute. We had
How could I
Uruguay
forget?
clean sheet against Panama, and
Yeah.
they gave up that goal. Yep.
How could I forget?
Yeah.
But no, they've looked fantastic defensively,
Yeah.
and um, Brazil, man, they got blanked twice in this tournament. I mean, you want to talk about a team that
Yeah.
should fire a coach? Like that dude had to be the most
Yeah.
annoying coach in fucking maybe the most annoying person in all of Copa America. Like, and the camera just wouldn't leave him alone. And I just got tired of seeing it. Like, dude, shut this guy up, get him off
Yeah.
the fucking camera. He got everything wrong, and then that's another team that's suffering from a number 9 identity crisis. But enough about them; they lost. Point is, Uruguay has looked fantastic defensively. They've been scoring. You talked about Darwin. I say this all the time to the guys. Like, give me 11 of Darwin. That dude is fantastic. Never stops running. Very smart player. Not the most polished finisher, but I think there's room for improvement there. But he gets results,
Yeah.
and I think what's holding them back a little bit is he doesn't really have somebody to play off of. It's they have awesome midfielders, a lot of talent on this team, but it just they're missing little something, I think, to get over the hump and to
Yeah.
get maybe the 2 or 3 goals needed in this game to move on.
Yeah, I mean this Uruguay side, they just run right, and they just put pressure on you. It's the Bielsa ball. What's crazy to me is I think back, and I know when the U.S. was complaining about cards and stuff when they were in it, like they showed a stat and it was like how many fouls per card for each team in the tournament, and Uruguay was averaging like 30 fouls per card or something like that. And I'm looking here at their stats for the 4 matches: 15 and a half fouls committed per match and zero point 0.8 yellow cards per match, right?
Nuts.
Like they get away with a lot of fouls, and I know this is like the South American football, very different than what we're used to watching in Europe when you compare the two tournaments. But they will just beat you into submission kind of thing,
Yep.
which is what they've done, and that's where I think they are able to get by. Obviously, the first 2 matches they scored a lot of goals.
Yep.
Darwin, when he's on, he is very good. I said, I said to you, the word I used was menace. He's a menace off the ball,
Yep.
making runs, pressuring the opposing defenders when they have the ball, and doing all that. He works his tail off. I don't know how he got pulled before penalty kicks last match. That was crazy to me.
Yeah. Yep. Didn't
With
hurt him,
like
thankfully.
not that much time left in the match. You're like, I'm sure he can run for 10 more minutes and get to penalties, but they pulled him after the red card um, to Nandez, and that's one place I was going to identify that Luis Diaz plays the left wing for Colombia in their 4-3-3. Nandez is now suspended on the right side. I'm
Yep.
wondering how much damage he can do coming down that side. I was looking for player
Yeah.
props
Let's
yesterday; they
shout
weren't
on
up
target
yet.
for Diaz, man. It's minus 140. It's a little
Yeah,
chalky, but it's almost got to be automatic.
yeah. When I was looking at lines last night, they weren't up yet, but they are up now, and I think one or more shots on target for him is very doable. They don't have 2 listed yet here on
Nope.
DraftKings from what I see, but when it gets closer, that's something I'm going to look at too because I don't know. Varela hasn't played a whole ton. I mean,
Yeah.
Nandez has played almost every minute. Varela plays for Flamingo in Brazil. He just played those 12 minutes against Brazil, I guess, after the red card, and
Yep.
that's it. So I feel like Diaz could cook this game. He's been a little quiet, but he did score against Panama. I said before the tournament that I thought Uruguay was one of the better teams in the tournament, but I also said Colombia was kind of my sleeper pick.
Yep.
And they've been very good. And
Listen, I
yes, they
think
had to
three
play
of three
Panama,
of the
but when you
best
put up
4 teams are
5
playing.
goals, yeah, I agree. Uh,
Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
no, but
Just
I agree. I mean, I think you do have that here, and um, Colombia. I mean, yeah, you got to play who's in front of you, but when you put a 5 against a team, that just shows that you are superior, right? They
yep.
didn't dick around. I placed 2 bets on that match. I placed the -1.5 on the Asian line and over 2.5 team goals because we had said last one we didn't really give out a pick because we said you got to get creative, and I was like, you know what, I feel good about this. I don't think Panama's got any shot. they had 2 goals within the first, what was it, like 12 minutes
15
of the
minutes.
match,
Yeah.
15
Yeah.
minutes. And I texted you, I was like, 2.5 is cashing soon. Like, and sure enough, it cashed by the 41st minute. Um, they just overwhelmed Panama. And that's a Panama team that, got through thanks to that red card against the US. It helped them out a lot. But
Yep.
man, and the finishing, when you talk about it, their XG was only 2.25, and they finished 5 goals. One of them a penalty from Broja. Actually, might have been 2 penalties, which helps. But yeah, 2 penalties. One was very late. But
Yeah.
still, like usually penalties, the XG on those is very high. So that means the other 3 goals you scored weren't like high probability goals. They only had 7
Yeah.
total shots, and they scored 5 of them.
Yeah.
So
Man, and you think they do it again? Over 1.5 goals plus 210. I mean, we talked about how good Uruguay's defense has
yeah,
been, but if
it's an
there's
intriguing matchup. There's going to be value depending on how you want to bet this match.
yeah. So where I'm at in Coach mentioned it. There's limited markets available currently. They'll obviously, more will pop up as we get closer to kick. Over 2 goals is minus 120. That to me is
Mm.
the best spot I'm looking at.
Yeah, that feels. I feel like there's got to be 2 goals. I mean, we said that too about the Brazil Uruguay match, but can Uruguay do it again? Like this Colombia side is a lot more competent attacking wise in this tournament than Brazil has been.
Yep, no question.
I'm looking at to score or assist. James Rodriguez plus 175.
Oh, we haven't even mentioned him yet. He's
He's
been
been
fucking
outstanding. Talk about players that
incredible.
turn up for their national team.
Yeah,
He has been. I mean, if they win the tournament, he's player of the tournament.
dude, he's minus 115 to get a shot on target. I
It,
mean, I'm
that's
looking at that
crazy.
too.
And he takes their PK. So if there's a PK,
Yeah,
he's taking it. I mean, his match rating from SofaScore, match after match, 8.4 against Paraguay, 8.2 against Costa Rica, 8.1 against Brazil, 9.2 against Panama.
no,
Like he's been outstanding. Goal and 5 assists so far.
man, him to get an assist plus 400.
That might be even better than goal or assist. In all honesty, like that
Silly,
might be worth it because
like
he's assisted 5 of
disrespectful
their
number.
goals already. Yeah,
Yep.
5 goals assisted. So they're giving a lot of respect to. They don't. I don't see the anytime score numbers up here. Just the score assist so far. Weird. I don't know why that is, but like all the Colombian players, the lowest one is Cordoba at plus 200 and Borre at plus 200. I don't know how. Or Hamas plus 175, like I said before, but like there's value. There's gonna be value on their goal scorers. There's gonna be
Yep.
value on him to assist or goal or assist.
Man, and the lines aren't out yet. I'm changing course here, but like you want to talk about a cards game if I ever saw one, this one here. If you want to talk about it, take a sprinkle on a red card, take a sprinkle on will a PK be awarded, something like that. That's usually in the plus 250 to plus 300 range. That's kind of where I'm at for this one.
Yeah. And the other little caveat here too on defense is Ronald Araujo went out injured for Uruguay, and he's been very solid at center back paired with Oliveira. And Jimenez came in, and he looked a little shaky at times.
Yep,
Um, the
for
Atletico
sure.
center back, experienced. He's been around the Uruguay national team for a long time, but definitely didn't look as solid in the back after that injury, in my opinion.
Yep, agree.
And like I said, this Colombia side much more attacking, force this tournament. I know that Vinny was out last match. I know Rodrigo, and they still had who's the other guy too that plays with them?
Um,
Rafinha.
Rafinha,
We're
yeah.
both playing, so like very talented players. But
Yep,
so
Martinelli
far,
was in there. Yep,
Diaz and Rodriguez have really turned up for Colombia. Cordoba,
Cordoba's been great.
I think they can really give this team problems in the back.
Yep.
I don't think they keep a shutout again
And at
against
this
this
point,
Colombia
I
side.
mean, it's going to be fascinating because both teams
Mm-hmm.
have to have the belief at this point, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you've made it to the semifinal, you've
Yeah.
played pretty damn well every single game. Um, it's going to be must see TV. I really think so.
Yeah, and Colombia, one of those teams too. Like they haven't been like they've been in World Cups recently, and but they're never threatening for the title. This might be their best shot at a title.
They've always had talented players. They've
Yeah,
never had like a talented team.
to put it all together.
Yeah.
Um, and I think assuming Argentina goes through, I think the finals will be fascinating. Whether it's Argentina Colombia or Argentina Uruguay, I think it's going to be very very fascinating final either way because Argentina Uruguay, big rivalry there. Both have
Mhm.
15 Copa America titles, and then you kind of have Colombia, who's the dark horse kind of side prior to the tournament, and who has played very well.
Yeah.
Colombia, I mean, get this, Nick. They haven't lost in 27 straight matches.
That's nuts. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
crazy.
How do you
And
not back them then? Hold
yeah,
on. Now you're going to have to go make me look at the money line here. Okay. Columbia to advance minus 120.
yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah, and I think the thing with these, the money lines plus 180 for Colombia, plus 190 for Uruguay, it's that going straight to PKs that worries me betting the money line, because then
Yeah,
when you get close, I don't think either team's want to take a risk like you would maybe a little
man.
bit closer to like an extra 30 minutes of play.
Yeah, Colombia plus a quarter of a goal, not there. But if that gets to like minus 140, probably hammer it.
Yeah, I mean, 27 straight matches is crazy. Um,
It's, it's
and Colombia
all I need to know.
matches 6 out of 7 with more than 2.5.
Yeah, telling you
First
guys, over
goal,
over two minus 120.
yeah, first goal could be key. Uruguay first goal in 4 of their last 5, Colombia 7 of their last 8.
Yep.
Get this, Colombia's won 6 of their last 7 first halves.
I was kind of looking at that. Plus 260 or some shit. Plus 260 money line first half.
That is a big number. And it's almost worth a little sprinkle if you think they're gonna turn up on offense like they have.
Man, if you can get an Asian first half money line, just saying.
First half, Asian first half. Pick'em is minus 120 on Uruguay, minus 115 on Colombia.
Bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited for this one. I think this is gonna be a fun
Yeah,
match.
good good match. Listen, it's been a good tournament too. Gets a lot of shit, right? It's not maybe aesthetically pleasing, but doesn't matter. There's
Yeah,
been goals, there's been penalties, there's been cards, there's been drama, everything you could possibly want out of a tournament, other than the host nation doing anything, and that's just us selfishly saying that. But man,
yeah,
if the like,
yeah. If we weren't
it's the
American, we could care less, right?
if they made it one more round, you feel a whole lot better. But it's been really good, and like I said, I think 3 of the 4 best, most complete teams are remaining. So you got to be happy with that.
Yeah, yeah. The only downside of this was the way the bracket played out, where you knew that Argentina was gonna have a pretty soft path compared to the other side. But other than that, I think it's been a great tournament, and you got those mismatches like the Colombia Panama. Thanks US, because that would have been US Colombia, and maybe that's a little more interesting. Who knows? Um, but it's been really good. And anything you want to leave the listeners with, Nick, here for a Euro or Copa before we wrap this one?
Man, I think we gave out some good bets, some good leans. Definitely just alerts on. We'll put out the daily shorts once lineups are confirmed, once we're closer with these numbers where they settle. But it's been fun so far. Appreciate the support. Over 2 in this game, definitely. But let's finish strong here.
Yeah, thanks everyone who tuned in to the live stream. This will obviously be posted on YouTube.
Sorry
For
for
anybody,
StreamYard. If you
yeah.
complain to StreamYard, you get your money back.
And like Nick said, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're not there yet. We're gonna have the daily plays on there. We tweet them out. Thanks again for always listening, and we'll catch you again before the finals.